Good afternoon. Well, I am José María Forteza. I'm introducing myself. I'm technical architect. I'm a founder of Técnicos G3, and I'm a vocal at the Association of Quantity Surveyors, Technical Architects and Building Engineers of Barcelona. For me, it is a great honor to present this panel, the last one for today, at the European BIM Summit 2016. And I would like to congratulate all the speakers for the great presentations, the very high level information on, despite being very intense and also very dense on our time constraints, because it's taken quite a lot of time. I think the time just flew, because it was highly interesting. This last session, it's called BIM Infrastructure, and it includes 3 speakers, or 3 presentations. Are the speakers somewhere around? Please come to the stage. The first one, according to my agenda, is the one by Andreu Cortada. Andreu Cortada, BIM in Infrastructure, that's the title. Andreu Cortada is architecture. He's got a master in biodigital architecture, and since 2012 he's worked as a BIM specialist, especially as a BIM manager at IDP Group. So you have now the floor.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, and thank you for introducing me. Since time is scarce, I'm going to skip some parts. I'm going to present you 3 projects that we carried out at Engineering IDP. They are projects of different kinds, and therefore I believe they are very interesting. Therefore I picked them because they have different features and characteristics. Just a general outline, IDP, or Technicity, it's a multidisciplinary business. We've got different business lines, and all of them participate in project development. The ones working in project development use BIM. Since several years, we've got new members on board, and apparently they are very satisfied with the BIM results. Here you can see some reference projects: hospitals, ministry's office, public buildings, malls, industrial facilities. That's for a company, a lab, for a company in the automotive industry. That's in Bogota, Colombia. That's part of a project for ICL and tunnels in Gloria Square here in Barcelona. The first project I wanted to present, it's the first one where BIM has been used, and it's for the Barcelona City Council. It's a project for traffic and pavements, improvement of the pavements, and IDP is in charge of the works managing. 1 million euros for budget. Here you can see some of the conditions of the roads before the project, and as I was saying, we got this executive project, and the first step was to create a model, the one you can see here on the screen, using BIM. It's a BIM model. I am going to detail the information. So, as we worked on that model, we realized that on the left side you can see the CAD drawings that we received, and we realized that plenty of information was missing. When you got 3D drawings, you get much better insight from reality and the real situation. So in that case, we had to coordinate all the spots that were unclear. So as we worked, let's see if that works. As we worked on that project and coordinating and making the necessary amendments, well, it's quite slow actually. We had to explain to all the stakeholders based on that outputs that the BIM model allows us. Quite interesting too that there was a works committee and we included the fourth dimension in the model in order to see how this would affect the traffic and to approach the project in a more realistic and clear way, so that we could have planning and drawings which would be more, or that we would have a project that would be more accurate than drawings. We had also to estimate the costs. The cost, as somebody already said, it's not an automatic thing. So it's not just push the button and then you have the cost estimate. We had to calculate that and then have someone check them. And, you know, some expenses are related to others. And in the two dimension, there was a cost estimation, and in our final project there was a 20% deviation from the initial budget. The follow-up of the works, it was very useful for key points, and so, or the more complex points of the model and the project, and it allowed us to see in a very clear way how to solve them, and also to export the drawings, which is something that it's quite behind unless the industry changes. Here you have some pictures of the final results of the project. You can see images from the model on the bottom part. So as we were doing the necessary changes and amendments, we obtained a parametric as-built model of the whole thing. Just very quickly, the workflow, we based on a 3D model, we would export and create videos, CAD drawings, and also based on the information we got from the 3D, we evolved to the 4D and even to a 5D model. And finally, we get an as-built model with some specifications that allow for maintenance in the future. The second project I wanted to present, it's our intermodal terminal at the Barcelona Harbour, and it connects railway, port, and other kinds of transportation. The surface is 80,000 square meters. The investment is 69 million euros, and that was we were in charge of the basic project and detail engineering. The parts of that project, we've got an aqueduct, which is part of the railway terminal. A second part, which is logistics and handling in transportation for that aqueduct. Some storage and auxiliary buildings for management. Regarding the BIM model, we've got 11 models, different softwares, different disciplines. Some detail on the workflow. We've got inputs coming from programs and client requirements, regulations, and on that we built the different models for each discipline using different software, of course. and the result was just a unique model. In some cases, we could transform one of these models into calculations. For instance, organization and tracing was calculated using the same software. And then we shared the same files, or the files that are in the same format, and we use IFC for the rest of the files. From that, we got some coordination, measurements, and once we got this information coordinated, we created the presentation, which is absolutely necessary today. Let's see if that works, because I wanted to show you the federated model, which includes the metal structure. Here we see the design software, Tekla in that case, and we've got a detailed level of manufacturing, which was led to the numeric control in order to obtain the profiles as they are going to be assembled. The organization model, that again, that's the federated model, and that will be the software from Istra. Just quickly, service model. And here we can see all the disciplines regarding facilities. I think it's not very fluid, so I'll just skip it. Same applies to architecture, which is done with Revit. And here we reuse some of the models for the process simulation. In that case, that allowed us to optimize the logistics and the transportation of the goods to the customer. And at the same time, we were able to change the engineering. And the last example I wanted to show you, that's pilot area or race center in China. We added some additional information to have to test and to trial the product that we are currently developing. That's a test circuit in the most precise way, according to the final result. Some views from that project, we use Revit to create the basic project and then add on the information. Later on, it was exported to a video games player, and we added the necessary parameters regarding pavement, soil, cars, and the cars that are going to be tested in that area, so that we can actually do the test before the construction is completed. Just to wrap up, what kind of advantages? Well, of course, a competitiveness advantage. We've seen them very clearly in that project, and I guess that the bigger the infrastructure is, the greater are the advantages. So that was it. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Andreu.
Thank you very much, Andreu. Now,
Joana de Mello will talk about, well, actually, she is a civil engineer. She worked at Somage from SACIR Group. She belongs to BIM work groups in the Technological Platform for Construction in Portugal. And she also works in BIM in Portuguese. She is responsible of the BIM implementation and the development of the BIM technology within the group. Joana, the floor is yours.
Hola a todos.
Hi everyone. I would like to thank the organizers for having invited me. And secondly, I'm a Portuguese speaker, and over the past few months I've moved to Madrid. So my Spanish is in my mental dictionary, so I've prepared a presentation in English and I'll try to give it in Spanish. I'm going to talk about communication, and it starts with language. After seeing yesterday's and today's presentations, I think that I'm happy with the topic we chose to bring here today, because we talk a lot about people, systems, the procedures, how difficult it is to have all these stakeholders collaborate in a BIM process. And also we are implementing BIM in a company that has been going on for many years. So it's even more complicated because the company has its way of working, its own softwares. There are many people who are not architects or nor engineers. They work on a financial department, accounting, then maybe they are lawyers. They do other things and they work in other ways, and we cannot really just arrive to the office and say, well, we're going to change everything because we're going to use BIM. We are a construction company, so BIM is good for us, and we are happy that the property asks us to use BIM. We started implementing BIM actually in our company because we saw that it's very useful at the site. We can reduce costs, we can control also timing, and we can build a trust relation with the property. And that shows that we are trying to work with the property, we try to collaborate. And we listen to the things the owner wants to change, and we can show the changes in advance before we do that in reality, and we can basically deliver a good result. So I'm going to start communicating with an architecture project, and because we are in Spain, I think that you all know what this project is about. This is real. This is a project that is built already. And what I see here is a problem of communication, actually. But if you know what you are seeing, I mean, what is what you are seeing on screen, then we can go and build it. But for me, it's not clear. So when we receive a project that we're not sure what it is about, we have a big problem. So we will spend time discussing with planners, with the property, trying to find out how we are going to do our work with as little time as possible and as little costs as possible. So what's the cost of communication between all these stakeholders? There's a term in BIM, soft landing, which is when we give the client the building that the client asked for. But we know that the client is not an architect or an engineer, and they don't know how to read drawings, for example. So when they are demanding something, they are not that sure what they want, and then the architect or the engineer shows them to the drawings, and the client cannot read them. Therefore, it is very difficult to make improvements or make changes, or just simply try to help the client, because the architect is not, the client is not an architect and does not belong to this AEC industry. Therefore, if we want to have a smooth process without mistakes, low costs, and high quality, we need communication and the intervention of all the stakeholders. And of course, that has a cost. So, for example, Vincent van Gogh lost an earlobe because he couldn't understand his friend. I just cannot remember the name. I'm sorry. Well, you know, they had a discussion, and Van Gogh cut his own ear. I'm not sure if you know the story. And Galileo Galilei, he was imprisoned in his own house because he was deemed a mad person when he said that the earth went round. And yesterday I was reading a book from Paul Arden, and there was it's a book where basically it says, if we want to be the best ones, we cannot just be the best ones, we want to be the best ones. So intelligence should never go in the first place before communication, because if you cannot communicate, then you are just alone. So you can have a great BIM project in our computer or with the planners, but if we cannot communicate this project and we cannot interact with the building company and the client, it's useless. So we need to communicate. But we're not going to lose an earlobe or our insanity, but it will cost time and money. And my boss once told me that when he receives a project, he looks at the project, and in 2 minutes he understands everything, and he knows what teams he's going to put together and the equipment and everything. But that's intelligence before communication. I'm sorry, Rafael, but it's true. Because when we are all together in a room and we are having a meeting to see how we're going to approach a project, the project is on screen, for example, in 2 minutes, Rafael, you want to come on screen and tell us what this is about? This is a sketch from Frank Gehry for the Guggenheim Museum. Well, then it would be voila and built. It took some more time, but at the end it was built. This is a project we did under the water. I had a movie, but I just took some images from the movie so that you could see this is a pipeline under the water, and that because of all the sea movements and the sand in the sea, well, it broke. So we had to repair it. But we had to hire someone to dive under the water and fix it. So communication is necessary because these people who went under the water had to listen to the engineers. They had to go down 1,500 meters. So they had to go inside the sea for 1,500 meters, down 30-40 meters down the water, and they had to tell us where the problem was. They had to do some measurements and bring them back. and bring them back to the engineers where we could build a model to send to the manufacturer so that the same divers could go back and repair the pipeline according to what we told them. So this is only to communicate with people who sometimes they don't even know what they are doing and they don't really see that much. So communication was very successful here, and we had a BIM model as well. That's why BIM is very useful for us. So the 2 minutes to understand a project is okay as long as everyone involved in the project and that participate in the project understand and interpret all the data in the same amount of time. So then the 2 minutes would be okay. Otherwise, we need to stay in the room altogether until the last person understands what needs to be done. Otherwise, we're going to waste time and money. So, as I said, we are a construction company, and we have some construction sites that are small satellites of the company's headquarters. So this goes around business intelligence. They already have structure, software, for many years they've had it. And when we started implementing BIM at the company, and also at the construction sites, we did it even if the owner didn't ask us to do it. We did some BIM models. We did federated models and coordinated models. We did procedures. We made also VEPs. We made some procedures to achieve coordinated communication among all stakeholders. We also had time control. We did all these things. I have many examples to show you in building, in very unique buildings like this one in Porto. This is from an architect from the Netherlands, and he asked us to send him some images to include in his book. Here we mix architecture and structure. We have companies that do coordination of the works. For example, here we see this dump works for 24 hours a day, so everything needs to be very well planned. So every time that we are going to use concrete for the reinforcements, we need to get all the models, and we need to know what amount of material are going to be needed. So we have steel, we have concrete. It shows us if how much we need for the reinforcement of the concrete, and we can do all the planning of all the works. We have other unique buildings so that you understand what's going on. The client again didn't demand us to use BIM, but we decided to use it for the modeling, for hydraulic models. We have objects. We have model coordination. We found out that before having BIM models, we actually had some doubts about the projects, but thanks to the models and coordinated models, we were able to create an Excel file that actually was too large. I had never had an Excel file that had a size of several megabytes. So we saw that didn't work, and we had to make other decisions. We did time control, we did space control at the work site. We did 3D scanners and 3D models based on points to certify that the project was being done appropriately. So basically we checked on different aspects. We also have responsibilities metrics. We have CDE procedures. We have different procedures with subcontractors, and we know if the models are valid. That happens at the work site, but we need to connect all these things with our main office, because even if at the construction site we have people working with cost control, taking care of the contract with providers and so on, still even if they are at the work site, we also have it in different departments at the main office, and they need to send approval. They need to have communication with the different departments. As you see on screen, we have several, and each one of these departments already have their own tools and softwares, and they have been working with them for many years. So this is business intelligence. And as I was saying earlier, that we had a very, very large Excel file, and it was not feasible to send by email anymore. So we had to adapt to our softwares that were internally developed. And well, as you can see here, the oldest software we use is already 21 years old, and that's the one we use to do cost control and the time spent at the work site. And that enables communication with the main office, also communication with other software, SAP, that we don't own but we still use, and we have been using in our company for many years. And we need to have everything clear, because we operate at the stock exchange, so everything needs to be organized. So what did we do in order to control the communication? And we were not trapped with a single software that just wanted to make profit on us. So what we did, we met the software programmers, and we created the communication language between BIM models and different softwares that we were using, so that we were not isolated like Galileo and being isolated. So the work sites need to have communication with the main office, and everything needs to be organized. So we have 3D models, and then, for example, we have a platform to do risk analysis. Our IT people developed this platform, and lawyers, the CEO, the engineers on site, everyone could use our internal communication tools, and we could use them regardless of where we were, at the office, at the work site, and we could use this platform and introduce the risks that we thought we had, and we just feed this platform, and we insert links to connect the models to the platform. This way we can do risk control on site, and also for planification and control the risks of costs. And then we have BSmart, that's our management software for documentation. and we don't have larger Excel files anymore. So now we went to BSmart, a software that we already had, and we use that on site in order to write our doubts, and then we can send links to the planners so that they can communicate with us. So we write some tags and marks at the models, and we insert a reference and a link to BSmart, and then we search these things on BSmart. We look at all the doubts that the planners had and the property had, and everything is well organized by date, by the person who made the question, whoever answered, what day they answered, and everything is registered at a repository. And later on, that will be very useful for our warranty service. And maybe 5 years go by, but if they come back to us, everything is well documented, and everything is well linked. There are links to the documentation that is needed. Sometimes, for example, lawyers need this service a lot, and everything is together at this software. And if there's someone who does not have the link or is not allowed to access the platform, we print it, and it has an attachment with all the information, and we do that really fast. We also used Sligo, but as I said, we've been using it for 21 years, and it does cost control on site. And we did the same process. We met with our IT people, and we added a field on the software and also a link on the models so that they could be connected to Sligo and then have all the information connected. Then Sligo sends all this information to the main office, and everything is interconnected and sent to the information repository. Everything is well organized. Other people from other departments, accounting, lawyers, they know where to find the information, and then it was easier also to convince them because they already knew the software, and that helped us to let them know that BIM was good to work. Because, for example, if we change the way we work and we add improvements, everyone will be happier and will be able to communicate. Thank you. Sorry about timing. I know we don't have much time. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Joana.
Thank you very much, Joana, for the effort, the language effort. And finally, we've got the last presentation for the day. It's called From the BIM to the BLM. It's going to be presented by Eber Rueda. He's a technical architect, and he's been also architecture responsible. He's been technical director of Atheroid Group, and currently he's a head of engineering at CT Engineers AAC. Ever, you've got the floor.
Gracias a todos. Sé que no.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I know it's not easy to stay here at this time. I'll try to keep myself short. That's a presentation which focuses on communication as well, as my colleague did. my previous colleague, but also on the value of the 3D when considering the project as a whole. So I'm going to just do a quick presentation of the Grupo CT. It has two divisions. One is in charge of software, information and implementation, and the second part, which is in charge of engineering. That will be the different companies that are part of the group. And here you can see the different divisions within the engineering group. And that's the one I'm in charge of. CT Engineering Group has an international presence for several years, and it focuses on aeronautics and aviation. We are more than 12,000 engineers, 1,200 engineers, and we are going one step beyond in the building sector. Just very quickly, because Victor Volkstrom, he was also on the first slide. He's the CEO at Clever, and Clever, it's a tool that we believe that's very useful to communicate in the line as with my previous colleague's presentation. And it's at Clever, everything is very organized. Preliminary project, construction, and so on. We think that it works really well, but we believe that in the final steps are a bit more incomplete. Clients, final stages. Of course, if we build something, it's for people to use it, right? When we get to know this tool in the first place, we thought it was very interesting because it's an open platform. It's a platform that allows you to design your own model using Open BIM and to share this information web-based. And you know that web allows to do practically everything. Then you've got a quick visualization. It's a photorealistic display. You've got virtual reality, and currently I know that they have a very powerful platform in VR, and this final part that I'm going to explain later on. So BLM, it's Building Life Cycle Management. It's come from the life cycle management industry, and it comprises not only the traditional stages but also the final stages. And we wanted to draw here some comparisons. I'm sure that you know these metrics already, which is the PAS 1192, PAS 1192, and where's the level of detail? So that will be this one. We've got the LOD 350, and we see that in the design phase, the design stage, it's very well established. But we see some flaws and some deficits later on. We believe that with these tools here we are able to reach level 2. But the problem begins when we get to the construction phase. So the building phase, you know that architectures do their drawings, and then in the construction phase we send the drawings to the subcontractors so that each of them applies their own software. And at the end of the day, we depend also on the kind of the project. It could be more structure related, more infrastructure, more engineering related. Here is, we found out that there are some deficits, some flaws, and when we consider all the value that we generated at the early stages of the process, when you want to send it or you want to apply it at the end of the stage, you'll see that the platforms are much more reduced. But the real problem comes when talking about the final client or the end user, because he's not doing any use of anything that's been done previously. So there we realized that all the value that was added at the early stages could be translated into the level 3 the BIM level 3. And we believe that the BLM is going to set the pace for that. And that's a tool that allows you to translate. The Clever tool allows you to translate all this added value. That's what we are working today. We are having this design review at Clever, which is very all set and well established. We are currently working at the management and client levels. So that's one of the projects that we are working currently. And what we do is that visually we link a BIM 3D model with a database, which would be that case, so that the client from using any kind of tablet can see the model. They can check how many spaces are clear and so on. The advantage is that it's a 3D model. You can move through it very easily. You can use geolocalization, and you can use your phone or your iPad, and the model sees where you are and is going to show you around. For instance, if you want to see the closest public transport station. And again, geolocalization and show you the wave. Then we've got interactive directories. That's a kind of practical use of the BIM. All the information and added value in the design phase would be led to here. And we believe that one of the tasks that engineers should face is to create more interactive constructive models. While failures control, that could be led by the management, or maybe a user sees some kind of problem and then he communicates that. And finally, temperatures by zone to see which areas are more concurred and so on. In order, you see here the whole cycle. We've got a design software of any kind, then a platform, Riga for instance, and then Clever. We linked the model through IFC with Riga, and then we link it all together with Clever. That allows us to create directly a 3D presentation, and from then on to check it and consult it wherever you are. So the main goal to transmit all the information from the early stages to the client. Thank you very much.